I don't get it.
Alia shushed him harshly, before turning back to peek through the glass inlays off the classroom door.
If you said they needed privacy, then why exactly are we spying on them?
Nino continued in a whisper, crouched behind her in the empty corridor. He could still hear them laughing. Unable to quell his curiosity, Nino stretched his neck to steal a glance around Alia's shoulder. The scene was blurry, smudges on the window obscuring most of the details from inside the classroom. Best he could tell, they had yet to stand up or even move positions at all. Adrian and Marinette remained in their spots, occasionally glancing at each other before bursting out into fresh peals of laughter. The whole scene was so bizarre. The pair watched this go on for a few minutes, Nino's leg cramping under him as Alia's intense gaze never left the door. Just as he had worked up the gall to speak again, her hand shot out, grabbing his collar for the second time today as she plastered him against the stone wall to their right.
"What? They're coming!"
Alia responded in a forceful whisper, pressing a large finger to her mouth as she willed herself to disappear. The classroom door swung open. "I look forward to it as always, my lady," Alia squeaked, her eyes going wide as Nino took his turn to shush her, hands flying out to cup themselves over her lips. "First she drags them out here, and next she tries to blow their cover. Rude." Footsteps echoed through the hallway. Slowly dying out, Adrian and Marinette made their way into the courtyard. After waiting a few seconds to ensure the coast was clear, Nino slowly released Alia's face. What had they just witnessed?
So you're telling me you don't find anything suspicious about their behavior at all?
No, I mean, yes, but just calm down, alright? Alia stopped pacing suddenly, swiveling to face him with a borderline psychotic expression. Nino threw his hands up, admitting fault in an attempt to divert her frustrated fury. She sighed, resuming her frantic march around the living room. Nino, absent-mindedly, wondered how long it would take her to wear a hole in the carpet. A minute passed.
"You should know by now to never tell me to calm down,"
she muttered irritably, batting his feet off their comfy position atop her coffee table.
"And get your feet down before my mother comes home and chases you out with a switch."
"Please, your mom loves me," Nino replied cheekily. The two had been friends long enough, practically since kindergarten, that they had become accustomed to this particular brand of squabbling, like siblings, or perhaps an old married couple. Alia sunk to the floor, propping her chin on her hands with an expression Nino recognized as her thinking face. She had been at it for 2 days, ever since Adrian and Marinette's little stunt during gym class. Nino hadn't read too much into the incident. Everyone at school knew Marinette turned into savage during dodgeball week, and it was only natural that Adrian was innately gifted at the game. The dude had like 6 different lessons he attended each week. It wasn't a stretch to assume he was uniquely athletic. Alia, however, was another story. Marinette hadn't answered her phone at all on the evening after the incident, a fact that both worried and intrigued her. Alia knew her best friend well enough to realize when she needed space, and now was not one of those moments.
"Dropped a tray at lunch? Sure, text me when you're ready to talk about it. Got into a disagreement with your parents? Absolutely, I'll be here when you need someone. Just murdered the entire class in dodgeball before having what seemed like a hilariously heartfelt conversation with the love of your life? Spill. Now."
Alia just stared at her wall of unanswered texts before succumbing to the call of her bed. She resolved to wrangle an answer from her petite friend in the morning. Yet, the next day came, along with their last Tuesday of the school year, and Marinette was suspiciously vague about what exactly had gone on the day before. Alia kept throwing questions at her, hoping to get something out of her tight-lipped best friend, but Marinette had just dodged her every advance, answering in vague phrases before assuring the skeptical redhead that everything was normal. Of course, Alia knew everything was not at all normal, because while Marinette remained suspiciously quiet towards her, she had no problem talking to other people. Well, really just one person, actually. Alia had looked on in awe, watching as Marinette flawlessly navigated conversation after conversation with none other than one Adrian Agreste. Just yesterday, her friend would have swallowed her own tongue if she had been forced to communicate with him for longer than 10 seconds. Yet, here they were, talking and teasing each other like they'd been doing it their whole lives. Alia remembered sitting in their courtyard during lunch that first day back, watching them prattle on with a slack-jawed stare of disbelief written across her features. Nino shared the same incredulous look as he sat on the bench beside her. He gestured vaguely at the scene in front of them. Adrian had just placed his hand on Marinette's shoulder, and she had yet to self-destruct. And Alia responded with a snort of agreement, her eyes glued to the giggling duo across the yard.
I'm not the only one seeing this, right?
Nino said vacantly, taking off his glasses to scrub at them with the hem of his shirt. Alia stood suddenly, turning to him as he replaced the spectacles across his nose.
You're coming over tomorrow and we are getting to the bottom of this,
she said resolutely, leaving no room for objection. Nino nodded in agreement, wanting to find some answers himself.
I'll text you later,
Alia continued, slinging her bag over one shoulder before continuing ominously.
In the meantime, see if you can get anything out of Adrian. I've got Marinette.
Yet here they stood, nearly 24 hours later, and neither of them able to get any sort of explanation out of their tight-lipped best friends. Alia's fingers wove themselves into the shag carpeting, deep in thought as she ripped at the fibers.
Maybe we're overthinking this,
Nino suggested from his spot on the couch. Alia shook her curls furiously, locks of reddish-brown hair fanning out onto the floor around her.
There's no way they just became that close overnight. No, you saw them Monday. 1 second they can't even look at each other, and the next thing you know, he's tossing her through the air like there's some kind of...
Nino looked over at Alia's sharp intake of breath, watching as she scrambled to her feet. Inspiration had struck. "Follow!" she nearly yelled at him, house groaning as she hightailed it up the stairs to her bedroom. More confused than ever, Nino trailed behind her. He entered the room to find her furiously clicking through files on her laptop. Alia's face was determined, her leg bouncing under the desk in preparation to find whatever it was she was looking for.
I have it. Of course I have it. I have everything,
she muttered, fingers flying over the keyboard. Nino stood behind her, hands gripping the back of the office chair. With a playful scoff, he noticed that she was scrolling through the Lady Blog archive. Oh, you've gotta be.
Bro, is this now really the best time to be updating your blog?
He asked her good-naturedly. Alia threw a hand behind her to blindly swat at him like a fly in the air.
Quiet you, can't you see I'm busy formulating a wild theory?
With just a few more keystrokes, she apparently came across whatever she was looking for. Alia grew eerily silent, pressing play on the video as she cranked the volume up as high as it would go. The scene started with a shot of running feet, camera then angling up to capture a black figure leaping down from a lamppost. Fiery tennis balls shot their way across the frame, the sound of a panicked crowd mingling with a monstrous shriek, echoing its way through Alia's bedroom. Nino recognized the scene. It was from one of the attacks in the park. He remembered seeing it featured on the front page of the Lady Blog nearly 2 months ago. Yes, he was subscribed, and never let it be said he didn't support his friends. Alia had been ecstatic at getting the footage. She never seemed to be in the right place at the right time to accurately capture any of Ladybug and Cat Noir's grand battles, but luck had been on their side that day, giving her a front row seat to the action. The video continued for some time. Most of it was just Alia swinging her cell phone around wildly, trying to capture as much as she could in the intensity of the incident, her own voice excitedly narrating the bit she was unable to get on screen. Nina was just about to ask why she felt the need to watch this right now, when Alia leaned forward in her chair, glasses nearly pressed against the screen as she watched with rapt attention. "Right here," she hissed, pulling him in closer to get a good look at the action. The video buffered, showing Ladybug and Cat Noir perched side by side on a wide sidewalk. The camera zoomed in shakily, illuminating the fact that the heroes seemed to be strategizing, their mouths moving in low chatter as their eyes remained focused ahead. Before they had the chance to enact whatever plan they may have come up with, however, Ladybug reacted to something off-camera, screaming at her partner to duck as a flaming projectile shot towards them. Beside him, Alia stiffened, leaning an impossibly closer as her nails dug into the skin of his forearm. Nino's complaint died on his tongue as he registered what he was seeing. He watched as the heroes began an incredibly synchronized, incredibly familiar combination. No way. Alia reached out numbly, rewinding the video to watch it again. They might as well have just gone back to gym class. No friggin' way. Nino held his breath, leaning over to click back to the website's homepage. There, in a large banner across the top of the screen, was a crystal clear picture of Ladybug and Cat Noir, welcoming viewers to the blog. All black pigtails and blonde mop tops, with eyes of blue and green staring down the stunned pair from inside the computer. Alia clutched at the arms of her office chair, chest heaving as she continued to stare at the image on the screen before her. She felt the strange desire to crawl into bed, to start her whole day, or perhaps her whole life over, because never before had she been blindsided by such an obvious truth. Just a reminder that you'll never get into a good college if you're locked away for a double homicide, Nino breathed. Alia swiveled slowly in her chair, staring up at him. Her shoulders were shaking with an emotion he couldn't quite identify, somewhere at the cross-section of disbelief, elation, shock, and rage. Alia stood. No, that would be letting her off too easy, she whispered. Nino immediately switched to hold me back, bruh mode, preparing himself to keep her from making any rash mistakes. Alia, for real? We can't just march up to them and accuse them of what? Being superheroes? What if we're wrong? You saw the tape. You saw how they acted. I'm not saying I don't think it's them. I'm saying we need to tread lightly in case it isn't. Alia took a pause, so unused to hearing such rational words from her often passionately misguided friend, that all sense of righteous fury fled from her body. She deflated. You're right. We need to be smart about this. Alia began tentatively, hands reaching out to grab the journal off her side table before leafing to a blank page. Here she paused, letting out a breath she wasn't aware she was holding. I'm listening, Nino prompted. He swore he could hear the small clanking noise of metal gears turning in her head. It will take some waiting, and a lot of planning. Rushed scribbles made their way across the lined page, Alia's hand flying to fill the lined margins. She looked up at him. We are going to need to keep an ear to the ground if we want a chance at talking to them. Nino squinted at her, puzzled. Why don't we just take them aside after school tomorrow? He asked genuinely. Because I don't want to talk to Marinette and Adrian, Alia answered, excitement creeping into her voice as she wrote interview questions in bold lettering atop the page. We're going straight to the source.